Today I would like to talk about something that has saved me tons of time working in After Effects. That is connecting dependencies in animation. For example, linking a secondary motion to a primary animation whenever possible. As you can see, the shape of the ball here changes as per the speed of the ball. Duik Connector is the most efficient and fastest way I know to do this kind of stuff. You can do it frame by frame, but once you do it by connecting properties, imagine the time you would save in your entire project. So let's connect squash and stretch of the ball to its speed. We already have the ball and the floor layer. Everything is at rest right now. Let's create a text layer and write this line of code in the source text field so that we know the velocity of the ball. The code is in the description. Right now the velocity shows 0, but that will change once we animate the ball. Now let's change the path property of the ball. I am using 4 keyframes for the shape to represent 4 states of the ball. From left to right, the velocity is going from negative to positive. The first one is extreme negative, and it happens when the ball changes direction at the contact point. And immediately after that, I have this negative velocity shape. It looks like the ball is moving upwards. And then after a few frames, I have this neutral shape. This happens at 0 speed when the ball changes direction in the air. And the next keyframe is the maximum positive velocity. See, it looks like the ball is moving downwards. Keep in mind the velocity change at the contact point is immediate. That is why it is distorted and the keyframes are right next to each other. And velocity change at the highest point is gradual. That is why we have the default ball shape and the distance between the keyframes is more. Now let's go to the links and constraint tab of Duik Angela. Click the gear icon next to the connector option. Now we must pick the control. The control is the primary motion. In our case, it is the position of the ball, as the velocity is a function of position. So click on Y position and then click on pick control option. Change the type to velocity. Give some random value now. We can change this later. Hit next. Now we have to pick the property which is the secondary motion. So in our case, it is the path property of the shape. Select all the keyframes of the path shape and click properties in Duik panel. You can now see the Duik connector code under the path property. That means the shape of the ball is controlled by the primary motion now. Now we can adjust the keyframes so that we have the perfect circle at 0 speed. Now it is the time to animate the ball. Let's just give it a few keyframes and go to position graph to make it bounce. Now we can see that it is already working. But you can fine tune it by changing the speed graph and maximum and minimum velocity parameters in connector control. One thing I would like to add is the proper use of velocity information. Let's take a simplified example. Here we have only 3 keyframes for the shape layer for negative, 0 and positive velocities. Here is what the position graph looks like for y-axis. Note down the maximum negative and maximum positive values out of all the keyframes. Write this information in the connector input fields. Now shift the midpoint to get the default shape for 0 velocity, that is the circle. You can see it deviates as per the difference in negative and positive values. We have a big negative value and a small positive value, so it shifts more towards the positive value. This way your animation would feel just right with decreasing velocities. Your squash and stretch will keep on decreasing with the decreasing velocity. That way it looks more organic. And it's done. Now you never have to do the squash and stretch on a bouncing ball ever again. Just import this file into your project, animate the layer, and the rest will be taken care of. Let me know if you find this interesting and useful. Maybe I'll come up with more such videos. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe the channel, that really helps.